If you're thinking about moving to Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, or really anywhere here in the Central Texas area, and no one has told you that you need to actually water your house, yeah, you heard that right. Not your lawn, but your actual house, then this video could actually save you anywhere from $8,000 to upwards of $40,000. So stay with me because this is not something that your listing agent is really going to be putting on their brochure. Now, this video is not just for people relocating from out of state, from anywhere in the country, right? Especially like the Northeast, like my friend Lady Liberty here is, or anywhere in the Pacific Northwest, or really just anywhere that just does not have this particular geological issue. Because if you've never bought a home here in Texas, or in specifically this Central Texas area, this is generally something that will not just affect your decision on which home that you're actually gonna buy, but what maintenance costs to actually budget for and what to look for on a home inspection. So let's get into it right now. So here's what most buyers don't understand, that a big chunk of Austin, the Austin metro area, which includes places like Round Rock, Georgetown, Hutto, Pflugerville, Leander, Liberty Hill, right, and a few others, is they sit on what geologists call the Blackland Prairie. And that Blackland Prairie is just a fancy way of defining just one thing, right? Expansive clay soil. That's it. Now, the technical term for this is smectite clay or vertisol. So if you want to sound fancy at your next dinner party, your next gathering, use that term. But check it out. Here's what it really means practically. It just means that the soil shrinks when it dries out and expands when it gets wet. Now, we're not talking just a little bit of movement here, right? We are talking some serious movement. We're talking about soil that can crack and open 6 feet deep in Texas summer heat waves. Wow. Now, and when that soil expands, right, and backs out after it rains, it expands with enough force that exerts 1,000 pounds of pressure on the concrete slab of your home, of your house is actually sitting on, right? So think about that for a second. It's just 1,000 pounds of pressure continuously every single season, every single time it drought and rains. Now, take a look at this. These are signs that you would look out for from the inside of your home is the actual moisture levels around the slab of your foundation are being inconsistent, right? So you'll see things like doors that stick and won't close properly, cracks in your drywall, usually diagonal cracks running from the corners of the windows and or your doors, or both. You'll also see gaps in between your baseboards and the floor, and in serious cases, very visible cracks on the slab itself in the garage or even outside the home. So how much would foundation repair cost you in Central Texas if you were to let this kind of thing get out of hand? Now, according to some contractors that I work with here in this area, a minor repair can start somewhere between $6,000 to upwards of around $8,000. All right. Now, the mid-range repairs, now we're getting going to be drilling piers under the home to actually stabilize it and level it back out. Now, typically you'll see those run between $12,000 to $28,000. Now, in most severe cases, this is where you don't want to be, okay? This can be anywhere between that 28,000 high point mid range to upwards of $20,000. Goodness, right? Now, here's the frustrating part for me in all of this is that your home's foundation will never be the same after that. And the vast majority of the foundation problems here in this region are preventable. And they happen because homeowners are responsible or they either didn't know about this or sadly they knew and just didn't stay on top of what it was. And a simple $30 soaker from your local hardware store is all it needs. It's often the difference between a slab that performs for 50 years and one that starts shifting and moving inside of that 10-year mark. Now, so here's the actual system that homeowners in this area use to protect their foundation. There are 4 common components that I like to basically outline. Now, I want you to write these down, take a picture, screenshot it, or you know what? I'll put a free checklist in the description below so you don't got to do anything. You just go ahead and grab it from there. So let's pay attention to number 1. So the number 1 thing, right, is soil moisture management. And this is basically the water your house part that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. Okay, now you want to maintain consistent moisture in your soil immediately around the base of the perimeter of your home. Okay, now the standard method is just using something as simple as a soaker hose, and that's placed 12 to 18 inches from the slab. And you want to keep this super simple. So just put it on a schedule, put it on a timer, and you don't have to worry about it. You're not trying to create a swamp here. Okay, you're just trying to keep the moisture level consistent so that the soil isn't going through some wild mood swings or expansion and contractions, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Hope you get the reference. Anyway, so during the Austin area drought conditions, right? And that's the one thing that's becoming more and more common here in this area. And these things are really not optional. You gotta do this so you don't miss out or you don't create any problems for yourself. Okay. So on to number two, right? So number two, draining and grading. So the ground around your home obviously needs to be sloped away from the home and the foundation at a minimum of a 5 degree angle, right? And you should be able to figure this out. So this ensures that it does, when it does rain, water drains away from your slab rather than pooling up next to it, right? You don't want pooled water. Now, pooled water causes soil to expand unevenly, and uneven expansion is what creates that huge differential movement, which can crack slabs, and you don't want that. So if you look at a home, you in your home, and the water pools right next to the house after it rains, huge red flag. That's something you definitely want to pay attention to, especially if it's your house. Get it taken care of today. And if it's one that you're looking at, be wary and make sure we get that inspection done properly on this home. All right, now number three, it's one that's often overlooked in my opinion, or maybe it's just discounted, and that's gutters and downspouts. Let's make sure you clean your gutters. Clean them at least twice a year in the spring and in the fall. And more importantly, make sure that your downspouts are just discharging away from your home, okay? At least 5 feet from the foundation. Now, most downspouts is they just empty and dump right there in the corner of your house. Not what you want, right? That's just concentrated dump of water directly against the slab. It's one of the most common causes of localized heaving. Okay, so make sure that your home's spouts are away, or do like myself, where I can actually put them underground away from 5 feet, and then water stays moisture in the soil and away from your foundation. Okay. All right, lastly, number four, which is trees and root management system. And, big, beautiful trees here. And it's one of the best things about Texas and the Texas homes. But certainly trees like our live oaks that we have here are actually relatively benign here. It's more of the water hungry species that really, really cause the problems. And these are those like willows, commonwood, and some silver maples, because their root system will seek out moisture from the ground and the soil. Okay. So it's important if you have them around the foundation, as they pull out that moisture, that soil is going to shrink, because it's the trees are just pulling that stuff out. And if you have that tree within 15 to 20 feet of your foundation, hello, you're going to have problems. Okay, so I recommend you talking to an arborist or a landscaper about the root barrier. It's a relatively inexpensive install, and that can really save you a ton of grief and a ton of headaches. And it's something that you can protect your foundation from these native trees, especially if you have those that soil that sucks soil from the ground. Now, before I give you the checklist, here's one more thing that you need to think about. So when you're buying a home here in this area, and your standard home inspection that you definitely should get, you don't want to miss on that, they will look at the foundation, okay? But here's one thing, that's something that most buyers don't know or don't realize, is that a general home inspector is not a foundation specialist, okay? If your home inspector notes on the inspection that your foundation has any movement at all, even minor, I always recommend you getting a separate evaluation, whether that be from a licensed structural engineer or a certified foundation specialist, before you actually close. And believe me, now that evaluation is typically going to run you between $300 to $500. Okay, that's something that you probably don't want to spend now, but it's absolutely worth it, because the money that you spend can not only save you a huge headache, but potentially save you thousands of dollars down the road, as it can tell you definitively whether that you're seeing is cosmetic, settling, or the beginning of a real structural problem. So don't skip on that. Make sure you get that taken care of. Hey, next week, check it out. Next week, I'm going to show you why a 3.2% tax rate on that new home and in that new master plan community might not be the problem that you think it is, and how buyers end up paying less per month than they actually thought they were going to. So I'll see you then. Until then, take care and God bless.